cheers to. Cheers to trying. Nothing special, I suppose. But I've been defiling Western astrology with what it may attribute itself to in 20 sign, in the 13th sign astrology, but in the 20 sign astrology, if you believe in Ophiuchus. And what everything has to do with each other. It is a Sagittarius sun season, and Mars is also dwelling within that space as well. Oh, that's funny, I thought it was a shadow. Mars is also dwelling within that space as well. And I think very much that attitude carries over. Sagittarius being, the archer and very much a warrior of truth, I suppose. And Mars being like it. The two together is very much the same unsettling feeling that advertisements and propaganda and bribing from the military for their unethical decisions gives off. And we are seeing a lot of that everywhere. If you have found a streaming platform that is not attached to any of it, please tell me, because I would love it. Mercury retrograde will be over soon, so rest assured that even the slowdown still moves fast, and things will continue to pick up the pace, and pick up speed, I suppose. Mercury is also with Venus at this time, and in its retrograde, which interestingly enough is two planets with like separate spins, because retrograde wouldn't change its spin, but it would change its direction, so it kind of like creates a little knot, I suppose, in that pattern, a little deviation in that pattern, which I find particularly interesting because it is kind of opposite currents or opposite ideas, and then, to see the way we have wind pickup and the way there's all these like weather warnings for lake effect, and the wind's been relentless, but the sun has been kind, and the snow has been quite beautiful, which is such an interesting communication of those energies as well, because despite Mars and Sagittarius, and despite all the retrograde energy, I do think Venus and Mercury retrograde have kind of a spotlight dance together, that are allowing us to access these energies from different planes or from different points. Oh, sweet, thank you. Tarot Reader of Badassery is really cool. I appreciate that. Bam! What was I saying? Venus, Mercury retrograde. Oh, opposite pivotal points, opposite axes, but that also kind of, I think, directs us to a really good, strong central point, rather than maybe necessarily feeling like all limbs are spinning at all odds against us. It is also with the, comet asteroid, I believe, asteroidal body, Haumea, which has a lot to do with symbolism of home and of I think memories of home, and with that we can attribute ancestors and the ways in which we call that back, or recall memory, recall ancestors, recall times and patterns before us. And so Venus is offering maybe some beauty in that. It says to me, turn over dead leaves, because there is life underneath. And the ways in which we can find beauty in the small things, or beauty in the disgusting things, or beauty in the grotesque and the sublime. And that's not to say, it's so pretty. That is to say, compassionate heart holding of it. So please do not be misconstrued. Gemini and Uranus, I think, is very much distraction or like a distortion, which, you know, given the day, kind of perfect, eh? Because there is a lot of retelling of stories, there is a lot of buried history, and it's not something that only exists hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It is something that is currently happening. The reason that the government removed MMIW, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but 100% missing and murdered Indigenous women has been able to go so long, and still so many people unaware of it because their stories are hidden. And the same ways and reasons that has been able to occur under our noses is why they're doing it again, because it will assist in the government's ability to disappear more immigrants or disappear more people than they already have, and they're already being litigated for or questioned for. I don't think anything has gone as far as litigation, but there's a lot of questioning into it, and the ways that the DHS and what have you are disappearing immigrants and transporting them to places that we're unaware, or transporting them to places that they can't be indicted for, that the government can't be indicted for. The ways in which tribal law and governmental law have been exploited and abused so as to abuse the very people that were lied to about protection is in fact occurring today. So think about that, not so as to slow down your digestion, but so as to hold grief with a compassionate heart, especially if you are in a place where that is silenced, because that makes for the digestion of information as well as food all the slower. Neptune and Saturn are in Pisces, last I checked, which is very much divining in dreams and symbols of dreams. However, Leo and Virgo energies, I think, are direct and detailed in your understanding of how can you tell? How can you tell this? How can you tell that it is you yourself dreaming? How can you tell that it is you yourself thinking? How can you tell that it is you yourself feeling? Even the younger and younger that they get, the more attached they are to technology. Are they aware of the stimuli and impulse that is caused by this device versus what is occurring in their bodies? Chances are they're really young, and so no, they're not, and we can deal with that. I mean, regardless of age too, like, are you really lonely, or are you just addicted to likes? The moon is also in Pisces, so all of these things are very heavy. I would imagine lots of people are imbibing. Pisces always resulted in a very damp bar floor, and so I wouldn't be surprised if that was a similar occasion. But I hope that you are not sitting across somebody that you don't like. I hope that you are able to spend, at the very least, time with people that you enjoy, if you are forced to be or participating in something that you do not agree with. However, exactly that, like, whatever place you find yourself in, are you seeing through your own eyes, or are you seeing through the eyes of others? Are you seeing through the eye of the world and its beauty, or Libra? Or are you seeing it through its pain and its jadedness or its callousness, which I think would very much still be our Aries Chiron energy, as well as all of the retrogrades that abound. But amidst all of that, we are not necessarily reading from the moon for the moon. What I will do is go through all of the signs in Western astrology and not attribute them to their retrospect in 20 sign astrology or in indigenous astrology, but give you the lowdown on Sagittarius, and then we'll go through all of the other signs and pull a top and bottom card, so as to give you a little tidbit of advice to keep in your back pocket through the rest of Sagittarius season, I suppose. For however long it shall be. So we did say that Western astrology, Sagittarius would be the Archer. From my calculations, in Toltec Astrology would more likely be the Hearth, potentially the Whirlwind. In Tolkien or Mayan or Mexica astrology would more likely be the eagle or the owl or vulture. I've seen both of those sort of take up that space, which is interesting. Because I've noticed there's a lot of lunar and solar elements, and that occurs throughout. But I've also noticed that owl and vulture very much take upon this very shadow-stricken element, and a lot of cultures, attribute some very intense lore and sometimes some fear to it. Despite a maybe more nuanced understanding of conjure. And in the New Age, but Latin-derived, via the author, Dream Seed, Dream Spell Calendar, then Sagittarius would likely be the Blue Eagle or the Yellow Warrior. So take that information and do with it what you would like, because there is definitely very cool people and very interesting websites that are bringing some life to those perspectives. And so what I have here is Cherokee Astrology by Raven Hale, who has since passed. And so we'll dabble in the Hearth, yeah. Oh yeah, which would be West. Accent on feelings, emotions, relationships, personal matters of security. Symbol of fire in a pit in the center. Color of velvet, black, stone, garnet. Beautiful. Powerful. Very Sagittarian. Element earth. Interesting. But necessary, because Western astrology would have Sagittarius as a fire sign. And they are very direct and very fiery and very devout on the structure of truth, and sometimes that means very protective of the structure that they've built, and very, gosh, how do I say this nice in my experience with Sagittarius is very I know best. It can be difficult. Flower be the Indian blanket. I don't know that flower, actually. And herb would be wild ginger or cardleaf. The sky sign is a triangle in the constellation Orion. Its base is El Nitak, the lowest star in Orion's belt, and the two corners are Saif and Rigel. The M42 nebula in the center of the triangle is the fire in the hearth. During a world destruction by fire, the people hid in caves under the earth went to live with the ant people. Interesting. The hearth was where they built a fire in the center for heat and light. There was always a hearth in the early log cabins at the center of the seven-sided council house. There was always a fire in the center of the dance ring. The hot house, Osea, is little more than a nest of fired stones in the middle of a small enclosed mound. Fire is symbolically the center of the Cherokee sacred circle, the first of the seven directions, the center of being to which all other directions are relative. The circle is comparable to the medicine wheel of the Plains Indians. Bam! I feel like that's years of research just condensed into one sentence. Wow. This sign carries the feeling of a drumbeat in an enclosed structure, echoing back and forth from one side to the other, the pulse of a great heart beating from the very bowels of the earth. A powerful, uncontrollable force as of earthquake, volcano, tornado, or tsunami, which is very interesting. Um, because I believe the eagle in Tolkien would be equated to, would have to do with like thunder and storms and tornadoes, hidden away from the eyes of humans. It represents that phase of the sun as it passes through the down under nether regions, the dark side of the sun. Mm. Hearth, that's so interesting because Sagittarians can be like so well read, well researched, well mannered, you know, poised, and also so cutthroat and unruly when they really like dig their heels into it. Hearth is the roots of the tree of life, the light of truth, really. The tree of life. If you look at my YouTube channel and my necromantic autopsy of truth, the actual etymology of the word, beyond what you'll just get on a superficial search, without indigenous linguistics, doesn't take you very far. But the deeper you go, you find more than just structure, but various ways in which it was, more than just structure and more than just tree, but various ways in which that was also living, various ways in which that was like thriving life and memory. The caldera of the true believer, a beacon to the weary traveler. This is a person who, in the all-enveloping nothingness of night, remembers that light and life are not dead. What did I say? Turn over dead leaves and find life underneath. They have not only gone away for a little while. That the sun sets in the west only to rise again in the east at the appointed hour. Everything is right where it should be, even though it is invisible. Hearth is the torchbearer who holds the light and the warmth that defeats darkness. This day sign has the intuition to explore the labyrinth meanderings of the mind and probe the buried treasures of the subconscious, like a researcher ought to. A homebody, first and foremost, one who builds a house upon a rock and anchors life on a firm foundation. Interesting, because Western astrology would have Sagittarius be very commitment issue oriented, and like you can't settle down, wants to travel, da 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 da. And while that is true in practice, I do think it stems from a root of seeking, and you know, like seeking where you belong, seeking where your ideas are accepted, seeking, you know, like-minded people, and so that sort of leads you to a place, but because you want to find rooting, because you want to find stability and sort of stillness in it, rather than just all, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I'm kind of gathering out of it. A centered person with a strong territorial instinct who draws specific boundary lines, mental, physical, and emotional, but strangely enough, this does not result in the panic of claustrophobia. This rigid seclusion gives the comfortable feeling that intruders are being fenced out rather than that they themselves are being fenced in. This is not the sign of a globetrotter or of one who lives out of a suitcase or in an RV. This is the sign whose origins are in the heart of the mountain, who never particularly cared what was on the other side. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That goes to say a lot to, like, there's so much beauty in the world to see, but, like, are you capable of seeing the beauty that is near you, that is around you, that is within you? And there's so much beauty to see, but are you just seeing it to see it? You know, is it an objective sight? Or are you able to, like, commune with it? Are you able to feel it? Let it run through you. Hearth persons have subtle ways of exerting power. They are careful to avoid the appearance of running the show. They take the attitude that their way is not just the best way, it is the only way. What did I say? This is an asset for a teacher, a CEO, a leader, a healer. It is a liability in one-on-one relationships. I wouldn't necessarily call it a healer, or a leader, but CEO fits. Heart signs are never afraid of hard work. They labor patiently and incessantly on long-term projects. They are very organized once they start on a path. They look neither to the right nor to the left, but proceed in the decided direction with no thought to the need for any change. symbolically, metaphorically, I think that's very much the idea of the archer. Is, you know, you collect information and you direct it, and because of the, you know, collective process and that maybe preceded it, that usually leads to like, no, I'm fine, I've done my research, I've done plenty, da 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 da, which can lead to a fairly close-minded perspective if we're not careful, but you know, ultimately good thing, ultimately good things. Da, 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 da. Brilliant, but not very flexible. They are inclined to stay with tried and true methods long after they have wrung all of their life out of the old way. Oh, interesting. Wow. This is very stubborn in an instrumental... This very stubbornness is instrumental in bringing others around to their way of thinking. These people not only love history and tradition, they make it. Writers of this sign leave their footprints on the sands of time. Teachers shape the thinking of future generations. They leave a legacy that may be good or bad, radical or conservative, outdated from the past, or futuristic to impracticability. Their imprint is indelible. There is a paradox here. Do we know the difference between a paradox and a contradiction? Important things, important differentiation. These people are reclusive, but gregarious. They seem to know the people who are instrumental in furthering a cause. They're talkative in such areas as history and science, yet sub rosa with secrets. A mouthpiece and a clam, all at the same time, and all wrapped up in the same size package, with no frills. This is very much the bountiful, you know, travel experience kind of idea of Sagittarius that we have for sure. Not likely to be tied with a ribbon, just stamped with their own official seal. That's pretty cool. Heart signs show respect for their parents, for their ancestors, and for the past in general. They honor not only the traditions of the elders, but also current civic rota. And although they have this deep-seated passion for ritual, they do not flaunt their own feeling in public. There is no weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth for the pure joy of dramatic impact. Much like the masked dancers in some of the old-time ceremonies, their countenance masks their inner feeling for the most part. They take a stand and hold fast to it, like a rock, a marble statue with a Mona Lisa smile. Ritual magic is an attempt to conjure nature in daily life. For example, folk magic is a belief that if you want something to be true, you should act in all ways as if it is already true. If you believe strong enough and long enough, the surrounding elements will become entrained to your rhythm and all resistance will fall away. This would appear to hold the secret of success for people of this sign. Fire is the sun spirit's alter ego on earth, and the hearth is her altar. Persons of this sign are usually the center, the core, the very pulse of the people. How interesting. How interesting. Let me know if Sagittarians resonate, or, again, explore a little bit if you want to expand the horizons from just Western astrology. Because Western astrology will lead you to your ego, sure, but Vedic astrology will lead you to your heart, and indigenous astrology or ancestral astrology will lead you to the soul. The shadow dance of the hearth. Balance the earth is a great secret of life. Find a comfortable middle road between building tenacity and mulish obstinacy. Yeah, I could find that. Find a comfortable middle road between bulldog tenacity and mulish obstinacy, between groovy and settled in a rut. Don't let fear of failure slow you down. Anyone appears to be right all the time gets a little tiresome, but never put your faith in gambling or double dealing to stimulate cash flow. Ooh, smart. You might be affiliated with intellectual rigidity, a tendency to be over-logical to the point of precayishness, a desire to dominate every situation, and just plain old ornery stubbornness. There is a danger of becoming frozen in one place if you don't learn to bend. You will surely break. Which, again, is suitable with Western idea of Sagittarius. The ways in which you pull a bow. If you are not fluid with it, there's an automatic resistance that makes it very painful. The sign is more a loner than a team player, although very adept at giving instructions. You find it hard to follow orders. Always within the realm of reason, loosen up every now and then and try something new, just for the fun of it. Adept at giving instructions, but hard to follow orders. Then not follow orders, but find somebody that you respect. And then allow yourself to expand with that. I don't like following orders. I think it's silly to follow orders without question. But that's when you ask questions and you find people that have answers, or you find people that don't think your questions are crazy or obtuse or obscene or seen as weak, and that allow you to expand in that way. Very interesting. I see a lot of the similarities. Do you see a lot of the similarities? Or a lot of the ways in which that contracts and expands on such an idea as being a fire sign in Western astrology. And so, dear Sagittarius, what information can we find for you out on the ether, love? Oh, interesting. That's kind of exactly what I said, actually. 8 of Hearts, 4 of Hearts. So this is very much like, think like irrigation systems and the ways in which they come back home. How are we irrigating to the things in which we care about, and also how are we being irrigated by, by ourselves and taking care of ourselves, but by other things that we keep in our life. If you find that you aren't able to ask questions in the groups that you're in, or aren't able to entertain ideas or what have you, then find people with more expansive minds. Find people that you look up to, that are maybe willing to have conversations with you. And not only will it humble your concept of needing more, but it will also open doors and broaden horizons about what it is you actually do want to breathe life to and expand. It's kind of like, on one hand, like when you meet your, famous celebrity heroes, and they're like actually just people, and they're very chill, or they're like not at all what you expected, and sometimes in the worst way. That's very much like a key component in this. Like, don't find yourself just wanting for more, but if you find yourself feeling judged or silenced, or not able to commune, not able to share ideas, not able to, like even this color is very like fall festive. It's very like potluck kind of vibe. Are you able to bring your favorite dish? Are you able to bring your love? Are you able to bring your honesty and your opinions? And like I had said earlier, like at the very least, I hope that you at least got to spend time with people that you don't hate, if you find yourself up against a wall of celebration when maybe your mind is elsewhere, or you don't understand, why they're celebrating, or you don't understand how we continue to celebrate despite so much information requiring attention for a different kind of observance. Not to just make it about the holiday. Because it's not. It's very much, like, the conversations that are had there? Do you find yourself shut down? And if not, invite new guests, love. Alright, Sag. I hope that helps. Capricorn, you strange little mountain goat, sea goat creature. Six of Diamonds. Queen of Diamonds. Six of Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds. Six of Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds. Dear Capricorn, have you brought much to your table and not much to share? It is quite a growing offering. It is quite a growing offering, and I feel like with this energy in particular, it's the ways in which you find people that are able to bounce ideas off rigorously. Like 6 is a very balanced number. It's a prime number, vibrates. Is it? It's balanced. We know that. These colors are very growing. They're also very serene. They're also very rooted. So I feel like there's a lot of pride here, and there's a lot of capacity to share here. And perhaps that also is embracing challenge, like embracing healthy debate, embracing the way that which feels combative can also help build you. Embracing the ways that disagreement can help you finesse your ideas even. And that perhaps that will help cool the fires, you know, and oxidize, like help cool materials so that you can continue to serve the ideas that you find nourishing despite, you know, pests, despite garden pests, despite creatures gnawing at your toes. Does that make sense? Then I feel like, you know, much like the prior sign, this comes with a confidence to host, to present ideas. They are even able to receive feedback from. And so to sort of piggyback off of that, off of the prior signs cards, maybe investigate where Capricorn is, wherever Capricorn is in anybody's energy, and how that can feel, the ways in which you have to see yourself, or are able to see yourself fully, so that you can expand on these ideas. This is also why I give, you know, these other options of, like, you know, maybe the sign and all of the Western ideas don't necessarily seem to resonate with you. That's because it's a fractional perspective, and so when we expand that, you know, fractal, we're able to see a little bit wider. This is the result of being able to do that, is being able to sort of, you know, host and present your ideas in a much more full way, because you have a more total understanding of yourself. And that's not just to say this, you know, that's very much, you know, understanding your shadow self, understanding, you know, the sun and the moon of you, understanding the silver and the gold, and their significances, and why you wear them, and you know, where you do wear them, and what that significance is. Your habits, your contradictions, and your contrasts. Says a lot about you, I promise. And this is also why I say, beyond your sun, moon, and rising, what is your Venus, what is your Mars? And that will tell you a lot about how you move through this system in particular. And Capricorn, your heart is the growing thing. I know all of those greens give prosperity, and that's, you know, decorations and, you know, catering. But what about that homemade loving? What about that, you know, what about the hearth? What about the fire? What's our next bud? Aquarius. Love it. Aquarius, Aquarius, Aquarius. How are you feeling? Star of the evening. Well, star of the deck, maybe not the evening. Aquarius, what you got? Ooh. Okay. Four of Spades, Jack of Hearts. I feel like this is no surprise. Aquarius is very much known for being aloof and distant. And so in a very big way, this is like guarding heart. Or guarding, you know, very literally guarding your heart. However, more so than guarding your emotions, I think very literally this is guarding insecurity. Because our Jack is inverted, for one. Because this color is very putrefied, and because if we're protecting with Spades, we're protecting with intellectual energy, or overthinking. And so that's very much, you know, a mind that's run away with itself. It's very much anticipating the worst. It's very much sacrificing the body for the mind. It's very much even disembodying for the mind, in a way that's not chosen, in a way that's not deliberate. Like defense mechanism, or also fainting spells. What bad habits, I guess, or memories, you know, like what negative inclinations or negative thoughts about ourselves are the fence posts of this, you know, like what are the fence posts of this guardrail that Aquarians or that Aquarian energies have up against their emotional capacity, or their capacity to connect, or their capacity to utilize something for good. Is, you know, obviously the age of Aquarius and technology and stuff, it very much makes me think of that too. But in a person-to-person context, like, you know, the key ideas or key concepts that our sense of self keep us very rooted in ourselves. Sometimes those key concepts are not concepts that we created or that we designed for ourselves. Sometimes those key concepts are, you know, negative recognitions throughout our life. You know, that I'm not worthy of love, that, you know, I'll never be loved because my father called me ugly, or that I'll never be loved because my mother told me I was fat, or, you know, that, I don't know, whatever terrible things our families can tell us. And the ways that those kind of build an identity in that, and even not just maybe the way that they've talked to you, but things that have happened. You know, always feeling betrayed, or always feeling let down, or always feeling one way or another. And those being core memories, or sort of fence posts in the ways in which we protect ourselves and build ourselves. But this is asking you to be very aware of that. Check your heart, check your bitterness. check in with that aspect of you and ask it, you know, what it needs to feel heard or connected or valid. Um, because a lot of times I feel like when you do sit with it, there, you know, more likely there's an element of hurt pride. Um, and you know, maybe that's true in general, but underneath that, um, you might find that in and of itself is a solvent. Sometimes we just gotta let young wounds bleed out and let ourselves cry about it and get back up and try again. And sometimes we realize that we've been holding on to this seed or this weight of an idea about ourselves that we really ought not to be holding anymore. That, you know, these ideas of incapability or these ideas of, you know, you're not smart enough or what have you. What a weight to carry as you're also trudging uphill, trying to make more of yourself, you know, in an honorable effort, in a beautiful effort, you know, trying to live your life shiningly. And yet, oftentimes, we keep these bad memories in our pocket that dim our shine. So this is very much a recognizer of, you know, getting rid of the things that don't bring you joy about yourself, you know, challenging those ideas where, you know, there's been a lot about challenging ideas or feeling challenged, but perhaps challenge yourself and challenge the ideas that you have about yourself and see what you find. And you might find yourself maybe with even bigger ideas, more solidified ideas, and a broader sense of understanding and compassion. Da, 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 da. Pisces, my love. Hanging out with the moon, are you? Seemed appropriate. Pisces, Pisces, Pisces. Ah, okay. Wow. 9 of clubs, 10 of diamonds. I get the feeling of a lot of dispersion. Like very literally having maybe not enough resources for the things that you have, or, you know, having more than enough and not knowing what to do with it. Energy or emotions, you know, having so many things going on and, you know, it always spilling over, or something to always get to, or something, you know, always coming next, or something always moving you. Maybe you find yourself dreaming of running quite a bit, or dreaming of battles, or dreaming of tasks. I find that to occur quite a bit. Dreaming of in-between, a lot of in-betweenness, either, you know, getting to another place, or preparing for another place, or running to another place. Or trying to get people to leave to go to another place, trying to convince people to escape, kind of thing. I also feel like if there's a sense of like, I don't know what to do, the answer is very close, or like the outlet is very close, is like right next to you. I know there's like those trends of like whatever's sitting to your left is your tool in battle, or whatever's tattooed on your right arm is your tool in battle, kind of like that. You know, for all of the ideas and the energy that you have, maybe the perfect avenue or outlet is right under your nose or where you least expect it. And so that's an issue of perhaps refocusing and being able to expand your vision to see opportunity in more places, and to see expansion in more places, to see, you know, relativity in more places even. And maybe that's even like in an emotional way, seeing yourself in more places. Especially if there's a feeling of like loss or isolation. Being able to see yourself in other people is very healing. Even if it's not a version of yourself that you dig, or even if it's not your favorite version of yourself or a healed version of yourself, it does bridge a gap of understanding, at least in the brain, so that you, in a way, kind of distance yourself from that dislike, but also bring yourself closer to understanding, and closer to that person, literally. Like, distance yourself from dislike, really. Then you're able to see that they're potentially just as capable of compassion. Obviously, not everybody makes that choice. But in vast waters, in the vast waters of Pisces, in the deep depths of Pisces, perhaps this is one of those moments of like, when you meet somebody else in that moment, do you assume the best or the worst of them? And ideally, there are no assumptions. Tertiary option. And yeah, in that, then you see that there's beauty everywhere, then you see that there's life everywhere, that there's capability everywhere, and that even in the worst of things, there is a balm to the bruising in our hearts. And for others, if they wish it. If they wish it. Dang, heavy Pisces. Love you for it. Dear Aries, how are you? Interesting. Interesting. 6 of clubs, 5 of hearts. 6 of clubs, 5 of hearts. 6 of clubs, 5 of hearts. Interesting. It's like coming to a head, but on either direction, which is very much points of friction, like major points of friction. 6 of clubs is very much like wands, like stacked against, would give us a point. 5 of hearts is like the delta of 5 rivers. So there's like a consolidation of energy on either way. It makes me think of like when you smash flints together, even. Then there's you know, fire, there's electricity, there's charge. That is gosh, that is very literally what it is. It can be territory for explosion. It can also be territory for creation. It can also be the ways in which we overwhelm or combust ourselves. Perhaps even the ways that we feel self-sabotaging of ourselves, perhaps. But this Five of Hearts is also within the delta of emotion is there's, I think, an underlying root of all of these things, or an underlying cause of all of these things. They tie together at a point. That point is a form of unison. That point is a form of agreement. So what is that agreement? What did we agree to? Aries doesn't agree to things that they don't know about or that they're not aware of. So what has Aries agreed to that has perhaps duped them into overwhelm or excess in their lives in some way, shape, or form? And how can we go back to the meeting point of these things and dissolve what we don't want and be able to follow the ones that we do? Very much going, into self, into the Hall of Witnesses, into the core idea, into the core memory, into, even if you were to, very literally, like, trace each of your 5 last partners or your 5 last jobs. What is the unifying thread that connects all of those things? That you got the job because you knew somebody, or that you met this person at a club. Like, what are the similarities? And that shows you a sort of underlying truth about whatever it is. So if it's like, okay, I want to go into a different industry but utilizing my skills. Okay, now we have a clearer view of what were some underlying skills that connected all of these things, because it led you to those things. Or if you're like, I don't want my next relationship to feel, or to reiterate my last. I'm trying to break that cycle. Then, okay, what were those last 5 partners? What was maybe a similarity or a commonality in them and in you? Because 100%, oftentimes it's like, oh wow, yeah, no, I wasn't in the best place in my life, or I was feeling really down on myself, or I was too forgiving with my own truth and let this person gaslight me. Whatever it was. My point is underlying truth. And this is very much the intensity of those things running full speed without our awareness or acknowledgement. So get aware and acknowledge. Dear Taurus, Taurus. Alright, Taurus. What you got, love? Okay. 9 of Clubs, King of Clubs. I dig that. Taurus is coming at life with a bat. That is a great thing too. I feel like that is, on one hand very key to what I said, consolidated all of these, ideas of you, and, braiding them together, having this one solid idea of it, and the ways in which that's able to expand in consistency. that's able to expand in depth of experience even. Um, However, that can't go both ways. Depth of experience has great heights, but if we give in to ideas that are outside of ourselves, if we give in to the overwhelm, then that can also create a lot of defensiveness in which we're sort of shooting in the dark, and sort of, swinging in the dark in general. So mind your temper, mind, the heat of ideas. Be always open to, at the very least, other ways of your own reaction. We don't always need to question ourselves. Some people are just freaking wrong. But we can experiment with the ways in which that we react, so that it's not impulsive, and that, not that we owe anybody the capacity to turn anything into a teachable moment. However, sometimes it's fun, and also sometimes it's just an interesting social experiment to try something else. And this can also be sometimes being ridiculous, because nothing shocks, I suppose, a bigot more than something absurd. It's kind of the way also, like, a lot of queer community is sort of taking back the F word and hurling it as a slur at angry older cis men, just to see them, like, self-destruct, just to see them, like, implode and be like, I was gonna say that, fuck. So, like, there's very much, like, a fun bright side to this too, if we are not too dense about it, dear Taurus. Gemini. Dear Gem, what a gem. How are you? Oh, I love how everybody seems to resonate with that Taurus bit quite a bit. Go figure. Pretty sure Uranus is in Taurus, and that is very much collective energy. So please laugh about it and turn it into a ridiculous moment or a teachable moment whenever you can. Where am I going? Gemini. Ten of Spades, Two of Clubs. Got to be a little tenderness. Ten of Spades is very intense. However, I think there's a lot of softness that can come with this if we don't just hold our thoughts in our head, but send them to our heart. Send them to our, the deepest place in our heart, and allow them to heal themselves with the softness that you're capable of in those memories. Like, it's, rather than like putrefaction, it's almost like maybe giving your grief back to memory, or back to the earth, back to digestion, will help heal the scar, will help heal the wound, will help soften the blow, and will help see with a clear mind. There's been a lot of these energies kind of going back and forth. What did I say about Venus and Mercury retrograde? I'm pretty sure that's also true with 3i Atlas and VI Atlas, V1 Atlas, and their misnomers and confusions, and the ways in which we're sort of taught between this and that as a society. However, this Gemini, macroscopically, I think it's very much like the ways in which we can think more clearly when we sort of fast from those things, whether that be technological fast, or very literally even just like a water fast for a day to be able to think more clearly or hold thought more clearly, or even just like writing down all of your thoughts. 10 of spades can also be like 10 pens, 10 poems, 10 notes to self, and the ways in which that can really open up space in your mind so that you can see yourself more clearly, and not just through the illusions of doubt and thought, and the ways in which they attach to emotion, because they are looking for emotion to attach to, which is this is very much looking for emotion to attach to. This is very much like clear mind, not attached to any of it. Clear skies, clear sights, not satellites blocking our view. And so, in what ways are our own thoughts those satellites blocking our view? In what ways can we, put those to rest so that we can see more clearly? And that is, it's something I've talked about before, where it's like, do I trust myself? Do I trust the universe? That gives you kind of a mental map of ways in which to go about situations, that has saved me time and time again. But, also the ways in which there's, 5 senses to acclimate to, sort of pull yourself out of an anxiety attack, or 10-second tidy, or 10-second tidy. 10 seconds to pick things up, or 10-second rule. If you do it in 5-10 seconds, just do it. And the ways in which that frees up space, that frees up mind space, that frees up activity space, that frees up not just space in your head, but the ways in which that you can see because of that. Because now you don't just have thought attached to emotion, that is an emotion that you're trying to suppress, or an emotion that you're trying to heal, or an emotion that you're trying to get rid of. In what ways are they still collecting debris? Does that make sense? Okay. Lovely. Dear Cancer, interesting. King of Spades, 6 of Hearts. King of Spades, 6 of Hearts. Interesting. King of Spades, 6 of Hearts. I feel like that very much also piggybacks on this last sign. And I think perhaps the ways in which, okay, if we send these thoughts to rational and, heart memory and all the way down to our root, what will it turn up to be? Oftentimes, if not always, it will dissolve it and heal it for you. But if we don't do that, we can also rule energy from a tethered root, or from a torn root, or from a damaged you know, jaded, pain-filled root, you know, callous and jaded field root that fuels the heart with bitterness and with resentment and with hate and loathsome and pain and what have you. Because we haven't taken those things and neurologically processed them. Just acknowledging them is like, sure, the superficial psychology of it, but to process them, to digest them, to allow yourself to fully be with them, is a different story. And this is again also why I fast on days like today, because there is a lot of heavy memories, and I do think there's a lot of agitation and a lot of frustration in the air. So it's easier for me to go through the day processing that on a fasting stomach, and then everybody else is relieved tomorrow, and I can eat in peace without feeling like I've got rocks in me. Six of Hearts. Is that the rocks in you, dear? Because it's very much, equalized, balanced. What did I say earlier? Like, six is perfection. But it is also so balanced with so much of this energy that I feel like it's almost like crystalline, like gridlocked. Like gridlocked in a way that's like Five of Swords kind of even. That kind of locks you into a pattern or into whatever idea or preconceived notion that it is. What was the other reading too, where it was like fence posts of protecting your heart, Aquarius, early on, I think. Relevant and related here. That I hope that we're acknowledging where the body needs rest, where there's maybe knots or kinks in our life that need to be smoothed out, and that we do it with gentility and not from a place of jadedness and pain, but a place of gentility in ourselves and in our lives. That is, even emotional freedom technique and tapping is a way in which you sort of take this initial thought, you move it through sensory processes and elemental processes, I think, as well, and are able to sort of dissolve it into a more actionable and affirmed statement. I do have one EFT video out on YouTube that is for fear, and I believe that video is the charlatans are going to hate me, so that you know the framework and that you can use that as you move through. So fear is something that is particular than perfect, but watch it anyway, and you can sort of mad libs whatever it is that's got you under, dear. And if not under, because you've already been doing that, then this is a visual representation of that as well, and the ways in which that we are aware and acknowledging these patterns. And because you're aware of the pattern, you're also able to find its weak points. And its weak points are going to be your prime information on the ways in which you can not attack, but heal these things with gentility rather than jadedness. And it starts with you. I hope that helps, my friend. We've got some things out here for you. Hello, welcome. Do I do readings? Yes, I am doing readings right now. That is, in fact, what I am doing. Alright, Leo. My friend, if you check out my profile, follow the links in my bio, you can find all the information that you are looking for. But while you are here, perhaps you will find information that answers some questions for you. as is. Leo, Leo, Leo. What can I tell you, Leo? Ace of Diamonds. Jack of Spades. Dear Leo, okay. Jack of Spades at the bottom of the deck. I think that's very much healing with humor. Eight of Diamonds is Ace of Diamonds, not Eight of Diamonds. Ace of Diamonds. Wow, I feel like this is a really lucky bit, actually. Or like, you know how in video games you pick up a tool and it's like actually a really valuable tool that's, you know, a lucky hidden map find kind of thing. Jack of Spades is very much healing with humor, and also the ways in which humor is a defense mechanism. So pay attention to maybe the ways in which you still laugh at things, and allow yourself to explore it. Maybe laugh even deeper. Maybe go even deeper with that. There's also, you know, like people that host laughing meditative gatherings. And there's also people in your life that will make you belly laugh in a beautiful way. And that will perpetually be healing. At the very least, it shakes up muscles and ligaments that are tight in your core and in your hips that allow your body to let go of some of that pain and memory and shame. In that it is kind of like a Hail Mary, like a brilliant find, like a key tool or device in being able to conquer your enemy, i.e. the version of yourself that you don't really vibe with, that you don't like, or that you are hiding from, or that you are, you know, just guilted or ashamed of, or still healing, still hurting, still denying, maybe even. But these are beautiful things. These colors are very complementary. These colors are very Fairly Odd Parents colors, which is very much fun and wishful, and perhaps even a pleasant, nostalgic memory that does not elicit ill will or bad blood, you know, or painful memory. And those are things that will continue to heal us. Maybe that's also, in that way, like in a very subtle way, just the joy that we can find in watching an old cartoon when shit gets real heavy. Like that level of like chill and blissfulness is not something to be underestimated, especially when we've, you know, all been dealing with quite a bit. Gosh, especially because old cartoons can really blow your mind with some of the lessons that they have and what they have to say. I've been joking to myself that if you can't personally resonate with an X-Men character, then we probably can't get along. But exactly that, you know, and in that chuckle, that humor that comes with this association is a way in which I'm able to heal the ideas of estrangement and build, build a little nerdy community too. And so that in and of itself is sort of this, you know, triple whammy, double threat, double-ended sword that we're able to permeate our own ideas and permeate, falsehood around us and create a bonding experience through it. This is why South Park's dope. This is why the Boondocks are dope. This is why so many of us resonate with these things. That is not to say that we necessarily always get them. But it's a starting point. It's a starting point for sure. I imagine that's probably, like, to some degree, maybe difficult for Leo too, because we want to be taken seriously, and giving into maybe defense mechanism of humor and trying to, solve things with humor feels like you're not taking yourself seriously enough, when in fact maybe we just try something different, something altogether different, to stir the pot and to see what comes next, like time jumping, do something ridiculous and see where it takes you. Virgo, my dear, 'tis your turn. I've got one flipped. Sorry, bud. Interesting. Okay, was not expecting that. Three of Swords, Eight of Hearts. Where did I pull the three from? The top, yeah. Three of Swords, Eight of Hearts, Eight of Hearts, bottom of the deck. I get the feeling this is a very imbalanced conversation as well. One that really ultimately leaves maybe the other person feeling isolated, or yourself feeling isolated in a group, or isolated in a room, or isolated in your own mind, perhaps. Isolated in your own heart. Three of Spades here is very much, Three of Swords kind of energy in tarot. However it is inverted. So, despite the isolation, perhaps, that one may feel, the vastness, the vast echo of feeling like you're in an empty room that is very populated, that is Eight of Hearts populated, lots of champagne, perhaps, feeling the misfit, or feeling the weirdo, is very much a superpower. The actual definition of weird is like something to do with like premonitions or controlling time or something like that. And so I, like, ever since I found that, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that kind of goes with my whole thing, actually. But the ways in which you feel misfit, or the ways in which you are very unique, the ways in which that you feel isolated, are the ways in which you're probably thinking ahead of your time, and, privy to ideas that, the masses, the general masses, maybe are fairly blind to. And that does not make you crazy. That does not make you weird. That makes you one of the beautiful minds that the world needs, especially now. That makes you one of the, powerful artists that will go down in history. That makes you one of the, world changing, paradigm shifting thinkers that are capable of changing the world, that are capable of shifting the energy of a room, that are capable of directing light, which is very much the brightness and the brilliance of this Eight of Hearts as well, and where that energy is capable of going. So, let yourself feel, absolutely, and maybe try and find, where it is that comes from, this idea of aloneness, or, idea of isolation, and, oftentimes it's, trust and betrayal, or, heartbreak in various ways, or rejection, or something that occurred in the past, be it this lifetime or another, that can help you sort of unfurl those knots in your tapestry. And so that you can also be reminded of the strength of the knots that you have so willingly and thoughtfully been able to put in your life and weaving. That is the integrity of the Three of Swords, absolutely. Yeah, give into your weirdness, let it shine, and chances are it will illuminate even the darkest corners of the rooms that you are in. My dear Libra, how are we? Eight of Spades and an Ace of Clubs. I ran into a Libra recently, actually. I asked them how they were, and they were like, not doing the things that I love, but they are doing a lot. And not to be biased, but this very much kind of fits that factor. Eight of Spades being very much like all of these ideas or tasks or commentary, sort of amiss and about our aura, looking to permeate our aura, even looking to infiltrate. And the Eight of Clubs very much being like a cool, clear, creative head. It makes me think fire safety, like make sure there's nothing around you, or make sure there's nothing flammable, make sure you've got your fire extinguisher, all the shit that you need to put it out. It's very much like clearing the space so that nothing catches fire. And then this is a lot of like shenanigans that is all very flammable. And so with those things together, maybe we let the fire take hold. Because if you light all of them, some of them will catch, some of them won't, and you'll know what's worth it and what's not, right? And if these are all thoughts of our own, yeah, if you shine some light on all of them, the ones that are real, that are yours, that are rational, will catch light maybe not rational, but like ideas worth exploring. You know, if we have 8 creative ideas and we think they're all crazy, but 6 of them are actually super plausible, we're never going to know until we try them all. And so go for it, try them all, and see what catches light, and see what works. However, that is a way ultimately to clear things. I feel like that's also maybe the ways in which people sort of like get overwhelmed and self-sabotage, and they just like burn everything, and they're like, starting over. No, try not to overwhelm myself again. Whatever it is to get sort of a clean slate or a clear head, right? But if we are overwhelmed in thought, it's because those thoughts are looking for some life or somewhere to go, or they're looking for some sort of recognition. Like if thoughts and words are spirits, then they are looking for breath in some way, shape, or form. And so what are we willing to give breath to? Or are we only giving it breath and then suffocating it sometimes? And more often than not, we're giving more of our breath to our anxiety, and we're suffocating our creativity. And so, when we consider it this way, what are you able to breathe into? And what is blocking the path of your breath? Because this is very much clear breath, too. Clubs and wands and fire, and the ways in which that can carry in the air. Are we breathing life to, our ideas of lack, or that we aren't enough, or that we have good ideas, and that we have come so far, and that we, have maybe not seen it done before, but know somebody who's done something similar, or know somebody else who's done something nobody else has seen before, and have seen crazier things happen. What have you? I don't think this is hard to clear. That's not to say it's easy, but it is potentially fairly simple. Like if you write down a list of these things, of these, 8 things to do, 8 ideas you have, 8, possibilities for a song, 8 possibilities for a collaboration, whatever it is, get them out of your head and onto paper or what have you, and start to see what naturally thrives. And before you know it, you'll have plenty of space in your mind and in your heart to create something altogether new, and won't feel so weighed down by empty to-do lists that we keep putting off, like storing bodies before a graveyard. Don't let your ideas become a mass grave. Give them their time and their space. And last, but certainly not least, our dear friend Scorpio. And at any given point, I think the unity between these signs, and also maybe the contrast between any 2 signs, if you've noticed the way some of them have overlapped, and sort of piggybacked off of each other, I think is very much where the space of the 13th zodiac, Ophiuchus, exists. And so exists to branch out into fractals of new paradigms. So consider that, and don't write off that surrounding signs might also influence where you're at, or might also have some wisdom to shed some light on the dark corners of the periphery of any given sign. Interesting. Queen of Hearts. Nine of Spades. Interesting. 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 Thought is heavy on the heart. Turned upside down. A lot of intensity. Maybe just what did I say about distortion and distortion and something? I do very much get that feeling. But the Nine of Spades isn't necessarily even just all you. I feel like there's and betrayal has come up before in these. I feel like there's definitely an element of betrayal with this. This is definitely an element of like, if there's 8 swords against you, the ninth is the one. Or if there's 8 swords for you, the ninth is the one against you, but they're all just the same. It's like behind enemy lines. But with that being said, the Queen of Hearts and this inversion, careful not to be estranged from your own heart for sake of protecting it from others. That's exactly what they want. In fact, that's not protecting you from them at all. That's giving in to them utmost. Losing yourself, losing your identity, and giving into the lies, the obfuscation, the betrayal, the what have you. Gosh, again, how perfect for a day like today. That is, I think that's been the ultimate American dream, was all the better and all the more to estrange us from ourselves, not just culturally or in language, but in your mind, in your spirit, in your nervous system. And we've seen that time and time again. We're still seeing that now. But all the more reason to be called closer to yourself and closer to, again, with all the Pisces energy and what did I say about Virgo and I think Leo was like knowing definitively, like, are these my thoughts? Is this, my homeostasis, my natural breath? Is this me in my dreams? Is this me? Is this who I am? Is this how I move in the world? Or is this how I've been trained? Is this how I've been conditioned? This is also, I think, the goal of the military, and estranges people from themselves in a very deep way. And that can be this energy, that one mode of betrayal, or that one risk of, has very much called us to not just protect our heart, but to take it out entirely and lock it away, and remove it from ourselves and bury it in a lot of ways. And that is a survival tactic, that is a defense mechanism, absolutely. That is, in a very literal way, the ways in which we were even able to preserve knowledge or preserve language or writing or documentation in any way, with the way ancestors would bury things at trees in case they had to flee or something went awry, or everybody that they knew was gone. I would like to, and I expand on that because I would like to also bring attention, and utmost bring attention to this, because all the more better to know yourself with, all the more better to go back, unbury it, and hold that heart and get very familiar about it, each scar, each puncture, so that you know not just what you've been through, but also how you've healed. And so that you know all the more what wounds are still there. What wounds are you still adding to it? What wounds are you still allowing to be added to it? Because if we just lock it away, people are still scratching at it. talking the same kind of shit, or you're scratching at it and you're repeating the patterns of the same things that broke your heart in the first place. What ways have you added wounds to it? And the only way you'll be able to know for sure is if you, for sure, unbury it, take it out, hold it, stare it in the eye. Because if you don't, then it's very easy to be able to continue to blame all of this for every wound, regardless of whether or not they were responsible for it. And for sure, teleologically, the first wound was insert experience here. However, that would also implore the use of time, and time is forever fluid, so take your power back and be present so that you can heal all of these things, and with great awareness, be very conscious of anything that moves with you or against you in the future. Damn. I feel like that's the best way I can end it. That's very clear. It was very clear, to say the least. Very, very clear, to say the least. And I hope that helps. I hope that it clarifies and defines some obfuscations, and perhaps gives you some more eyes to see with, more feelings to feel with, and more avenues to allow them to digest or disseminate in whatever path you may choose necessary for that energy. Follow your breath. It will tell you much more about where that space lies, takes up what it needs, and trust that you have every elemental tool that you could desire at the tip of your fingers, and riding on every breath. Thank you for being here. I'm really glad that resonated for Shamaya, if not all of you. If you would like to expand upon, personally or individually, in any way, shape, or form, then you can always find me at the link in my bio or my website for a reading of your own, as well as always find resources to guide you on your breath and guide you on a decolonizing, deconstructing journey of these ideas and toward your true self. Party on, and I will see you soon.